The Miracle Perspective, showing you the person you are meant to be. It's finished.
It's the time of the day. Please don't be late. Call your friends, I'll call my friends. Let's go and be changed. TMP is doing the most. TMP is doing the most. It's the time of the day. Please don't be late. Call your friends, I'll call my...
The most devastating experience I've had to endure is the experience of being a pastor's kid. Yep, I am a pastor's kid, for those of you who didn't know. When I was born in the mid-90s, I found that my parents are pastors. My dad is leading over 47 branches in South Africa, and he's the founder of our church. So you can imagine the number of people that he is leading. I got born in that situation, fueled by the fact that I became the only boy in between two ladies, older sisters, myself, and two younger sisters. So I've got 4 sisters. I'm the middle man. You know what that means? I'm going to be the one to take over the ministry and take forward my father's work. That has been the most devastating thing I've had to endure in my life. The pressure of having to dress up a certain way. The pressure of having to speak a certain way. The pressure of having to speak a certain way. The pressure of having to behave a certain way. Look, it was bad. It was bad to a point where I was called the bishop of the church at a very young age, man. Because my dad is the bishop at the church. So when they see me as the bishop, the one who's gonna take over my father's legacy. They would call me, "Hey, Bishop. Hey, little brother." It was very devastating. And what made it even worse, mind you, it's not my parents. I discharged them from this guilt. It's not my parents. It's the community and the congregation. The pressures that were coming from the community and the congregation. The moment they see you in a place that they supposedly don't think a Christian or a person who is born from a pastor's house should go, they would label you as a certain sinner, man. It was like really bad. It's almost as if they expected me to be a very, very precious little Jesus. As if when they see me on the streets, they'll be like, "Hey, little Jeezy." It was really bad, ladies and gentlemen. I felt the pressure and I succumbed to the pressure of the surroundings. So much so that it had to change my character. I hated the fact that I was a pastor's kid. I hated the fact that I was my parents' child. I felt like I committed a crime for being born by my parents. I hated this whole thing. But I couldn't do anything about it. Why? Because there is these people that are my parents whom I love the most, and I don't want to disappoint them. I want to support what they're doing. I don't want to be a rebel. But the pressures from outside were too much. I was stuck in the middle. It's as if I had no life because I have to please my parents here. I don't want to disappoint them. And I still need to please the community and the congregation at church. Imagine you're a very young boy growing up in that kind of situation. What happens to your identity? It got to a point where I didn't even know how to introduce myself. Because what do I say when I get to people? "Hi, my name is Miracle Chawane." "Oh, the pastor's kid." And my father is famous in our community. So whenever you say Chawane, you're out there. So everywhere I went with the shadow of my father being the pastor. It was bad. And I succumbed to those pressures. I lost my identity. And as a coping mechanism, I turned into being a comedian, a clown, not even a comedian, a clown. To a point where whenever I'm at school, I would take each and every opportunity and make it a joke. I was a joker. I was the person who just brings disturbance in the house. If there's peace and quiet and order, I don't like it. I must be the causer of chaos. That was me coping to the pressure of being a pastor's kid. Because I never wanted anything to do with being known as a pastor's kid. I didn't like it. So being a joker and being unserious about things was like my escape. I hid under the character of being a clown, knowing deep inside that I actually have something positive. I have something in me that I think I can share with the world. Because mind you, ladies and gentlemen, my father has been the greatest influence and impact in my life. He's the one who shaped me to the person I am today. And he grew me, he molded me. And I became a person who believed in myself, but was embarrassed in myself. Because I did not like the identity, the labeling that I got from the community. So I knew I had a message somewhere inside of me. I knew I could inspire someone. But because when I speak sense, I will be labeled as a pastor's kid, which is something I don't want, I had to lose it. Got to a point where when I'm given an opportunity, my dad would put me on stage many times to introduce him as a speaker. When I get to the stage, I laugh, I crack jokes, and I'm not speaking anything productive or valuable because I don't want to be associated with that umbrella of being a pastor's kid. I hated it. It was bad. I got to a point where I felt like it's better if I never got born in this family. Because why am I here? Am I here to just live this life of being a pastor's kid? It's heavy on me. It felt like I didn't have a chance to be myself. And being a clown was a coping mechanism. Many people know me as a joker, never serious. That's why it was hard for me to transition from being a joker to doing what I'm doing today. Because I was stuck in that identity that I created out of that pain that I was in. Long story short, the point that I'm going to is I succumbed to the pressures of the surroundings to redefine my identity. I lost who I was. I lost who I was because I allowed those pressures to take away my identity. I missed the most fundamental thing about identity, and that is, who are you and where do you come from? Those are the most important fundamentals in finding out who you are as a human being. The best thing in the world is finding out who you are. I lost that because I missed the point of where I come from. It turns out that being a pastor's kid is not a curse. It's actually a blessing. Because I got the most valuable lessons from my parents. The way I am today is a result of my parents and where I was born. My family is what shaped me to be the man I am today. And that is when I decided to rediscover myself. That's when I went back to the drawing board and asked myself, where do I come from? I'm asking you the same question. Where do you come from? Are you in the same situation as I am? Or are you someone who is in the situation I was in, where you're still neglecting where you're coming from? You hate where you come from. You hate your background. You hate the conditions of the place you come from. Maybe because your parents are not the role models that you would have hoped or wished or liked to have. Are you that person who despises where you come from, just like me? I despised where I come from. I didn't like it. And I had to live a life. I had to live a double, if not triple, if not fumble, whatever bull it is, man. I lived many lives just because I lost where I come from. I lost the most essential thing about my identity. And that's the element of where do you come from? Today I'm here and I am proud of who I am. Why? Because I went back to the drawing board and asked myself, where do I come from? And there is no way you can define who you are unless you know where you come from. Your family is the immediate first departure point where you can find your identity. And I found identity and I made peace. I acknowledged the fact that I'm a pastor's kid, a proud one for that matter, because my parents have been great to me. And I'm here to implore to you, man, that, hey, go back. Try and find where you come from. Do not lose yourself in the pressures of the world. Do not succumb to the pressures of the world. Do not succumb to the pressures of social media. Do not succumb to what the world expects you to be. Be who you are. When you know who you are and where you come from, there's the second thing, and that's the Holy Grail. That is who you are designed to be. Who you are meant to be is the Holy Grail. It's one thing finding out who you are. It's another thing finding out who you are meant to be. Right now, I'm in a journey where I understand that, oh, this is who I'm meant to be. Mind you, who you are meant to be, it's never a final destination. It keeps developing as you go along with life. But you can only realize that once you find the first point of departure. Who are you? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to encourage you today. Who are you? Where do you come from? The most devastating thing I've had to endure in my life was the experience of being a pastor's kid. It all turned out when I decided to rediscover who I was. And I made peace with that. And I changed that narrative. The most wonderful and precious gift I've had in my life is the gift of being a pastor's kid. And I'm super proud of that. This is me reintroducing myself to you, ladies and gents, because I realized that in most of my videos, all the videos I did last year, you didn't know who you were talking to. You didn't know who I was. Why? Because I was still in the shadow. I was still trying to deflect who I was. I was still trying to run away from who I was. And it was only up until I had to go back and in retrospect and check, what was I doing all along? And I realized, because when I watch myself, I can see, this is not me. That's not something I would have said. This is not me. This is not me. This is not me. I always had that. And now I decided to reintroduce myself to you. This is who I am. And this is what shapes me. This is what helps me to discover who I am designed to be. You might be like me. You might be a person who's struggling to find your identity. You don't know who you are. You have been avoiding yourself for too long. Look, it's okay to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself all those tough questions. Who am I? Who am I designed to be? Where do I come from? When you answer those questions, you will see a whole game opening up, a new game that you can play. And that's the game of self-discovery that will show you who you are meant to be. This is the first episode of the many other personal sessions like this I'm going to be bringing to you in 2021. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. On the next episode of the TMP Legends Show, I'm going to be having with me my mentor, the guy who made me the person I am today. And that is my father. This man has made it. He came from a person who didn't know who he was to a point where he knows who he is. He will be sharing his experiences, how he grew up, how he was neglected and abandoned by his father, how he was rejected by his father, how he turned into being a gangster, into becoming who the person he is today. Tune in on the next episode of the TMP Legends Show. Till we meet again on The Miracle Perspective, where we are showing you the person you are meant to be. It's finished.
The Miracle Perspective, showing you the person you are meant to be. It's finished.